Okay, so thank you to those of you who are here with me live, Holiday Yoga on the Go, and thanks to those of you who may be watching later. So my idea for this practice, we're going to practice together for about 60 minutes. And my idea was to teach a practice today that would feel really good in your body and that would give you some ideas of yoga that you could do on your own, especially around the holidays. So whether you're having people come to your house or you're traveling or whatever, my idea is to have us do poses today that don't require many, if any, props, and that will give us a nice kind of stretch of the areas of the body that get tight, especially when traveling. So I know I traveled by car, like an 11-hour car trip both ways, or each way, I guess, for Thanksgiving, and I was traveling again for Christmas in the car. So I was really experiencing this in my body, like tight hips, tight shoulder, kind of weird neck from the way I was sitting. So I'm going to get us to stretch out sort of all the major joints of the body so that, again, on your own, you can either, everyone's going to get a copy of this video, you can watch this video, or I'm also going to send out some written notes so that you could just follow along your written notes if that's easier, or just maybe you'll find a few minutes that you could do easily on your own. So that's the idea. That's a map of where we're going. And if you're just joining us now, I'll reiterate what you might like to have available, which is one yoga mat. And if you can put that up with the short end of the mat to a wall, that would be great. We're going to do some wall work because since I decided to do this without props or straps or props, blocks or straps or any of that, I decided to use a wall because I thought a wall would be available whether you were in an airport or at your house or a family member's house. Most places you can find at least a wall, so that will be our prop that we use today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you have anything else you want to chat into me in the social stream, now is a great time to do that because I can still see it. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to my mat in just a second, and then I will not be able to see what you type in until I come back, which will be at the end of our practice. So I'm just going to hang out here for 1 sec, see if I see anything else come in. All right. We're going to start our practice seated with your back against the wall. So if you know that you're not comfortable sitting down on the ground or if that's not accessible for you, you can do this whole next seated portion in a chair. So you can make your choice now if you want to stay in a chair or if you want to come down to a wall. And because we're going to, or to the floor, and because we're going to start with our back to the wall, you might like to just sit with your back up against the back of the chair. Okay, so you can go ahead and take a moment and get that set up. And I'm going to move over to my mats and my wall. Okay, so as you're coming down to seated, with your back against a wall or some kind of sturdy support, you can come into any comfortable seated position. So I'm going to sit with my legs loosely crossed, but if you prefer, you can extend your legs, take them wide, anything that would feel good. So once you decide on how you're going to sit, you might like to just rock to one side, take your hand under your hip, move the skin out a little bit, and then reverse to the other side. And we're doing that just to get nice and rooted in our sit bones. And your back is pressing up against the wall. Now, it doesn't have to like mash back there, it's just nice and supported. From here, you might like to close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. We're going to take 5 deep breaths to start. So as you're ready, you can inhale and exhale. And you might like to sigh out that breath, just releasing any stress from your day. There's no particular timing here, so you're just taking your breaths at your own pace. And they may lengthen with each exhale, but they may not. You're just going to observe and see what your breath is doing in this moment. After your fifth exhale, you can continue with your eyes closed and just let your breath find its own pace. So you may find that it naturally wants to continue those deep breaths, or it may find a slightly different rhythm, and either way is fine. What we're going to do now is start exploring how our body is really feeling in this moment, and that's why we have our back up against the wall. So sometimes when we sit, especially on the ground, since many of us do not do that throughout the course of our day, our backs can get really tired, and then we end up like slouching or feeling uncomfortable, and it's harder to sort of feel what's happening inside the body. So we're starting here with the back supported so that we can really find some softness and letting go in this position. And then in a moment, we're going to come off of the wall and see what that feels like. So as you sit here, no matter what position your legs are in, take a moment and feel what's going on in your thighs and in your hips. So these are some notorious tension holders, especially when traveling or if you've just kind of been sitting a lot, hanging out with family. And they also get tight when you're like standing around wrapping gifts or cooking or whatever. Just a lot of tension around the holidays. So because your back is fully supported here, see if you can let go of any holding in your thighs or in your hips. Many of us have internal muscle tension that's often created by stress that we don't even usually notice that we're holding unless we're in a position like this where we're supported and we can kind of find it and have an ability to let go. So we'll take one more moment here with the thighs and the hips. See if you can soften any more. And then we're going to move from there up to the belly and the back. So we're really sort of working in a 360 circumference around the spine. So once again, begin by just observing what's happening in your back and in your front body, your torso and belly. And then again, see what you can soften and let go. You might use the breath to work with this. So you may inhale, and then on an exhale, soften. We'll spend one more moment here. And then we're going to go to the shoulders and the neck. Again, touching in on these major parts of the body that are well known for holding tension. And just observe, where are your shoulders in this moment? Do they feel like they're up around your ears, which happens to a lot of us when we're stressed? See if using the breath, you can encourage them to let go any amount. So this is going to be different for each of us. So there's no particular goal. What you're doing is just checking in with your body and then seeing if it's willing to release any minuscule amount. Everything we're working with right now is subtle. So we're unlikely to suddenly have like, I don't know, like about 5 inches or something in our shoulders. Although I guess you never know, but for most of us it's going to be fairly subtle. We'll feel it from the inside out. One more moment with the shoulders on the neck. And then finally we're going to move to the jaw. So take a moment and just Notice what's happening in your jaw. If you feel any clenching or tightness here, if you have any issues with TMJ or grinding your teeth at night or any of that headache sometimes, you may find some here. And then again, use the breath, see if you can let go. You might even like to encourage that letting go by opening your mouth very wide. And then slowly closing. So we'll spend one more moment with the jaw. And then you're going to expand your awareness to your whole body. Just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. And seeing if there's anything else you can soften or let go. Maybe touching in where we have already visited: thighs, hips, back, belly, shoulders, neck, and jaw. Now let's take one more deep breath here. And then if you haven't already, you can slowly open your eyes. And we're going to move from having our back up against the wall, and we're going to come to seated a little bit off the wall. So I'm going to move onto my blanket. If you like to have your hips up, you can sit on a blanket, sit on a pillow, anything like that. Or you can just sit kind of exactly where you were. I'm just moving here so you can see me a little bit better. And come into a comfortable seated position. So you might like to come to the same position you were in just a moment ago. I was with legs crossed. You might have had your legs extended. And again, root those sit bones. So rock to one side, move the skin out. Same thing on the other side. And what I'm doing with that is just taking my hand under my hip and moving the skin kind of back and out. So it's this sort of motion, although it's not quite this dramatic. I'm just kind of trying to show you what the motion is we're doing. So from here, we're just going to try to reestablish what we had with our back against the wall, off of the wall. And this will not take as long. You might even like to keep your eyes open. And you're just going to, again, do a scan of your body. And you may have noticed some changes in where you feel tension or holding now that your back is doing work to hold you up instead of the wall. If you're sitting in a chair, you can have the same experience by just scooting a little bit away from the back of the chair so your back is not fully supported. So what I'm really noticing is that my hip flexors, or where sort of the leg inserts into the hip, have gotten a lot tighter now that my back is doing the work. So I'm going to take a moment to just try to relax that. And you can do the same anywhere in your body: thighs, hips, back and belly, shoulders and neck, and jaw. And from here, we're going to do a little bit of work with our neck. So you can begin by taking one ear towards one shoulder. It doesn't really matter which way you start. And you're going to breathe into the side of your neck that's opening. So for example, I have my right ear towards my right shoulder, so I'm breathing into the left side of my neck. And sometimes it's helpful to even use a visualization here. So I'm going to visualize some water just pouring down from overhead over my shoulder, allowing that shoulder to drop down and the neck to open. And we'll take one more deep breath here. And then you will ever so slowly bring your head back to center. We'll pause for a moment with the head in the center, just kind of giving ourselves a chance to come back. And then we're going to go other side. So the reason we're spending this time finding what's going on with our body and releasing tension is that I think, especially when some of us may be experiencing some holiday stress, it's important to be able to notice, like, what is even going on with my body before you can think about how to address it. So we're working on developing this skill now so that you can use it later as we move into the latter half of December and the early part of January. One more deep breath here. And then we'll come on back to center. Okay, so I want to work a little bit on this seated position. So it doesn't matter what position your legs are in, again, seated or legs extended. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see what we're working with in terms of the back. So with the back, oops, I lost my little mic back, hang on. Okay. So with the back, we've got our sit bones nice and rooted. And we have softened the hips and the thighs as much as is possible. From there, the spine is elongating. So you might even imagine thick roots growing down from your sit bones down into the center of the earth, holding you nice and stable. And from there, the spine is extending, crown of the head is lengthened towards the ceiling. And sometimes you want to tip the jaw up or tuck it down. But really, in this position, you want to keep it fairly level with the ground. Eyes are just looking ahead. And you might even be able to shine the heart or the sternum forward a little bit, which will again lengthen the spine. So we're going to revisit this in just a moment when we're standing. So this is our Tadasana, or our standing position, but in seated. So when we're seated, our root or our foundation is our sit bones, and when we're standing, it's our feet. So I'm going to turn back to face front, continuing to use that lengthen your spine. We're going to do a little bit more shoulder and back work before we come on up to standing. So any comfortable seated position, and you're just going to bring the tips of your fingers to your temple. So I have mine right on my edge of my glasses. And we're going to, using our fingers moving from this part of our head, turn a little on one side, come back to center, and go to the other side. So we're beginning some very gentle twists here, just going as far as your back allows. Going at your own pace, you might like to move on the breath, so you can inhale to one side, exhale to center, inhale to the other side, and exhale to center. We'll go one more time each side. And when you come back to center that time, you can rest your arms down for a moment. And we're going to bring the hands up again, but this time they're going to rest on the shoulders. So you sort of have little wings here, and we're going to circle our wings one direction. Doesn't matter which one comes first. I'll go about 5 times this direction, and then we're going to reverse and go the other direction. Same amount of times. And you can allow the hands to rest down when you're done. And now we're going to take the arms wide and bring them in, crossing one arm on top, doesn't matter which one. Kind of coming into a little hug, maybe round forward a little bit. Then we'll open the arms out again. And this time, opposite arm comes on top, little hug. So here we're opening the chest, and we're opening that tiny space between the shoulder blades. Continuing at your own pace. Again, you might like to follow your breath. And think of me really as your guide. I'm sort of talking you through some different options, and then you're able to move at your own pace, do only as much as feels good for you. Let's go one more time each side. And when you're done, arms rest down. Now I'm going to turn to the side to show you the next one so you can see it a little bit better. You can stay seated just where you were. What you're going to do is bring your hands to interlace behind your back. So if your body's anything like mine, my shoulders are always super tight. So this is going to help us with that a little bit. So on an inhale, we're going to squeeze our shoulder blades together. And on an exhale, we're going to allow the hands to drop down any amount. And that may be like a millimeter. Then we're going to continue that process. So inhale, shoulders squeeze together. Exhale, hands drop down. After the exhale, you can relax the shoulders for a moment. And we'll continue inhaling, squeezing, exhaling, hands drop down. So we're kind of doing this little contraction, expansion move to open the shoulders very slowly. Once you feel like you've kind of gotten as far as you're going to get, you can just hold right there. Maybe with the shoulders slightly back. And then we'll uninterlace the hands and bring the hands back to rest anywhere on the legs. So last, seated pose. Hands rest anywhere on the legs. And we're going to inhale, lift the sternum. So we're coming into a very small back bend here. And your head is going to stay in line with your spine. So there's going to be perhaps a tendency to want to really drop the head back. But that's really not like enhancing our mood or our spine at all. It may just risk injury to the neck. So inhale, we lift the sternum, small back bend. Exhale, we tuck the chin to the chest and round the back. And you can use your hands on your legs for leverage here. We're going to continue inhaling, lifting the sternum. Exhaling, rounding the spine. And again, if you're sitting in a chair, you can totally do this. Feet will be planted on the floor. This is basically a seated version of cat-cow, which may be a pose you're familiar with. If you've spent any time in yoga classes, cat-cow is usually done on hands and knees. So this is a version that keeps those of us with knee problems safe. And your next rounded back, you can just come back to center. From here, we're going to come up to standing. So you can come up whatever way feels comfortable for you. I have a chair here for a little bit of support. You may find that if you have something nearby you can use, that would be nice. If not, you might like to just kind of come up briefly onto hands and knees. And then one way that I like to come up is to come up to kneeling, step one foot forward, place my hands on my knee, tuck my back toe, and come on up. But you can do whatever works for you. I see my computer is falling asleep, so there we go. Okay, so we're going to revisit, and I'm just going to move my blanket for now. We're going to revisit, like I said, the standing position. So we're going to use the same things that we used when we were sitting, except now standing. So just turn to the side again, just like I did a moment ago. You're going to start with your feet a comfortable distance apart. So I think this is a really important instruction, comfortable distance apart. Oftentimes this position is taught with feet together, which can be really uncomfortable and or unsafe for those of us with curvy bodies. It's just too close. And it's also sometimes taught like hip distance apart. And hip distance, when you hear yoga teachers say that, they really mean your internal hip bones. They're kind of like right about here. So this sometimes feels good for me and my students. Sometimes it's a little too close. So I think rather than kind of worrying about any of those, just separate a comfortable distance apart. You're going to find what works for you, and whatever you find that feels good in your body is going to be safe. You can build the foundation from there. So turning to the side so you can see feet are a comfortable distance apart. You might have just the slightest of bends in your knee. I might not even be able to see it with my eyes if I was there with you, but you can feel it in your body. This just prevents you from locking the legs back. Because when you lock the legs back, you jeopardize the knee. And you also have a tendency to kind of pop your butt out, which is going to create more of a curve in your low back than is really going to feel good. So very slight bend in the knee. From there, again, we're going to use the same skills. So you might remember when we talked about the sit bones and growing those roots down from the sit bones. Now the roots are growing down from your feet. From that stability of the feet, you might even like to press down under the big toe, pinky toe, center of the heel, creating a triangle of support. The back extends, chin is roughly parallel to the ground, eyes are just looking ahead. And you just take a deep breath here, feel the energy flowing through this open channel that you've created. So I'm going to turn back to face the front, and you can continue facing the front. And we're going to add on some standing poses now that we've had our firm standing foundation. So the first thing we're going to do, like I mentioned, is just kind of move through all of the major joints. So if you do have a chair, through the wall, or a couch, whatever, something that you can just kind of rest your hand on for some balance, that would be great. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to stand, shift your weight into one foot, and then you're going to pick the other foot up off the ground, just kind of casually, and you're going to circle the ankle. So if this doesn't work for you, you can totally do this seated in a chair. You're just going to circle your ankle one direction, other direction. And you're going to start moving up the legs. You're going to kind of start drawing some small circles on the ground. Really just kind of the lower leg is moving at this point. You can go the other direction. And then you can start making those bigger. You can have the whole leg in on the action in one direction and other direction. Again, just bringing some mobility to those joints that may be tired when you're traveling. And you can plant that foot on down. Come back to your regular standing position. We're going to do the arm of that same side of the body. So I just did my right, so now I'm going to move, start circling my right wrist one direction, other direction. Then I'm going to start with some small circles, just kind of keeping my arms dangling by the side, one direction, other direction. And then if it feels good, you can start making those circles quite a bit bigger. Going back as far as feels good for your shoulder. Then you can reverse other direction. And when you feel about even, you can rest that arm down, maybe just swing it, shake it out a little. And we're going to go to the other side. So this time I'm going to use my little chair for support here. And we're going to start circling the ankle one direction, other direction. And then I'm going to move back to using my wall. I'm just going to try to show these different options. Again, this time the top of the leg is fairly stable, although of course it moves. And you're just drawing some circles right above the ground, both directions. And then you can start making that bigger, perhaps getting the whole leg involved, if that feels okay. Going the other direction. Keeping the knee of the standing leg or the stable leg just a little bit bent, just like we just talked about. And the leg can come back to the center. And we're going to move to the arm of that side of the body. So we'll start with the wrist, one direction. Other direction. And you can start with some small circles. And you know by now we're going to go one way, then reverse, go the other way. And then if it would feel good for your shoulder, you can make the circles bigger. And if any of these options that I'm showing don't work for you, you can just repeat what we've already done. So if making a big circle doesn't work, you can reverse and go the other direction. Continue with the small circle or go back to the wrist. This is all about what feels good for your body today. So if you do this video later, you may find, you shake out your arm, that it changes. And that's not good, it's not bad. It's really just kind of how our bodies are. They're constantly changing. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the center of my mat. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to stand in our standing mountain position, our Tadasana position. So feet are comfortable distance apart, knees are slightly bent, spine is extending, feet are rooted. And we're going to lift one arm up. So go ahead and lift your left arm up. Let's all do the same side. From here, you're going to turn your head to the right. So your head's looking away from your arm, getting a little bit of a neck stretch. Feet are rooting down as fingertips are reaching towards the ceiling. And we'll take one more deep breath here. And then head and arm come back to their starting position. And we're going to go other side. So this time right arm comes up. Head looks to the left. Get a little stretch in the neck of the shoulders here as the feet root down. Your roots are growing down, down, down to the center of the earth as your fingertips reach up to the ceiling. Perhaps feeling some lengthening in that right side body. Your fingertips may reach a little further. And then head and arm come back to the center. All right, we're going to add on again. So if you have a block and you'd like to just see what it would be like to use it, you're going to place it in front of you on the highest height. If you don't have one, that's fine. You don't have to have one. And if you don't have a block but you want to use some support, you could use the seat of a chair, you could use a stack of books, you could use kind of anything that you could put your hand on. So we're still in our standing position. This time we're going to reach both arms up overhead on an inhale. And then I'm going to scoot back so you can see my hands a little better. Courage down. Okay. We're going to just grab a hand and you're going to go lean to the other side. And we'll come back to center. We're going to switch. So I have my left hand holding my right. This time my right hand hold my left. I'm going to bend to my left. And come back to center, release the hands. Now we're going to use this block. So now you know what my hands are doing. You don't have to necessarily see them in the video. You're going to inhale, reach up. Left hand grabs the right wrist. And we're going to move to the right. Come to center. Switch, right hand grabs the left. We go left. And if you're going the opposite direction, I know I'm not mirroring you, that's fine. Just do one side, then do the other. This time we're going to come back to center. Bend your knees significantly and fold forward. This is where your block comes in handy, so you might bring both hands down to the block. You can keep the knees bent, but you want to put your chin towards your chest, release the head and back down. And our next inhale, we're going to come all the way up, pressing through the feet. Arms come up overhead. And we exhale, arms down by the sides. So let's do that one more time, and we're going to add on. So inhale, arms lift up. Left hand grabs the right wrist. We bend to the right. The feet are really rooting down here. So you may have a tendency to want to pop over to the side and kind of shut your hip out. But we're keeping the body fairly stable because we're really trying to access and open this side body. Coming back to center, we'll switch. And as I'm sure you can imagine, the side body gets pretty tight when we are traveling, sitting a lot at our desk, whatever we're doing, because it's kind of compressed. Come back to center, release the arms, bend the knees significantly. Hands come down to the block, to the chair. If you don't have a block, the arms can just dangle down. You can also grab your hold on your elbows and hang. So you have plenty of different options here. Next inhale, we're coming all the way up. And hands release down by the sides. So we're going to do one more sort of thing like this, and we are going to use the block if it's available. So we're going to inhale, arms come up. Exhale, we're going to fold forward, hands to the block. If you don't have a block, arms are just dangling down. And if the highest height of the block is too high, you're going to dial it down. One way you can know if it's too high or just right is if you can still find freedom in your forward bend. From here, you're going to plant the left hip on the block. Your right hand's going to come to your hip. So if you're not using a block, the left hand can just dangle down, or you can bend your knees until you can rest your fingertips on the ground. We're just doing a very slight twist here. We'll come back to center. Right hand plants on the block, left hand comes to the hip. And we'll come back to center again, pausing, neck is releasing down. And then we'll press through our feet to come all the way back up. And exhaling, arms by the sides. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, arms come up. As you fold forward, if your belly's compressed, here's a quick thing you can do. You can bring the hands to the low belly. And as you fold forward, I'm just going to show it this time. I'll turn to the side. You hold on to the belly, kind of holding it up a little bit. And fold forward. Just moves it a little bit out of your way. Another thing you can do is step your feet wider so that your belly has more space to hang as you come forward. So let's do it again. Inhale up. Exhale, folding forward, perhaps touching the belly as you go. Hands come to the blocks. Hands releasing down. The left hand plants on the block, right hand comes to the hip. Gentle twist. If you want to, you can even reach the right arm out, palm is parallel to the floor. And then planting firmly through the feet, you can reach it up any amount. And come on back. Other side, right hand plants on the block, left hand comes to the hip. And only if it would feel good, using feel good as your measurement, left hand reaches up. Then we'll come back to center, pausing for a moment in the forward bend. And we'll come on up all the way. Arms overhead. Exhaling, arms by the sides. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of shoulder stretches using the wall now. So I'm going to actually turn around backwards to start because I think you'll be able to see me better, but you can just face forward. So you're going to just have a space of wall where you have just a little bit, you don't need a ton of space. And you're going to start perpendicular to the wall and bring your hand up as though it's at 12 o'clock on a clock. So you're going to be standing at least a foot away from the wall. And what we're going to do is stretch this area across the shoulder into the chest. So on an inhale, you're going to move your hand back about 2 hours if you were on a clock. If you notice that your body is turning dramatically into the wall, that means that you're a little bit standing too close and you're going to step a little further away. And so what we want to find is a stretch or no strain. From here, your hand can come back at 3 or 9 on the clock, depending on which way you're facing. Again, checking in. If your body is turning in a little bit, that's fine. If it's like super dramatic, you're going to step a little further away. Then the hand comes down to 5 or 7. And then the hand comes to 6 o'clock. And you can release the arm down by the side, just kind of let the blood drain down into the fingertips. You might like to wiggle the fingertips. And then we're going to reverse and go the other direction. So you get your other side, you're just going to turn around. And again, pass to 12 o'clock. Then you're going to move it back a couple hours. If you find that you're too close, you'll step away. Then we come to 3 or to 9. 5 or 7. and 6. And of course, these shoulder openers are great for traveling, but they're also great. I think lots of times many of us are tight in our shoulders and chest from sitting at the computer typing all day, so this might be just an easy, quick thing you could do anytime. Arm releases, fingers angle down. Now we're going to do one more shoulder opener at the wall before we do some other standing poses at the wall. Okay. So here's how this one's going to work. It's going to be similar. So for this time, your whole forearm is going to be pressing onto the wall. So from your elbow to your palm, you're in contact with the wall, and that's going to stay the same. So as we go, you may find that your body has a tendency to pop off of the wall. We're going to keep this arm nice and stable here, which is going to help to protect our shoulder. So you're standing a comfortable distance away from the wall. Feet are a nice distance apart, whatever feels good for your body. And then very, very slowly, you're going to walk your feet around away from your arm. You're only going to go as far as where you feel a stretch here across your shoulder and chest, and for many of us that will not be far at all. And where you can keep your forearm on the wall. You'll notice if I were to keep going, my arm would start to pop off. And then I'm starting to jeopardize the stability of my shoulder, and I'm just not getting as good of a stretch. So, forearm stays on the wall. If you feel the shoulders opening up and you can walk the feet around, even another centimeter, you can do that. If not, stay just where you are. Take one more deep breath. And then we're going to slowly walk the feet back around the center. And then gently release the arm, just letting the arm dangle by the side. To get the other side, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're just going to turn around. So my back will be to you. Forearm comes to the wall, starting in a comfortable standing position. And then feet begin to very slowly walk around. And you have to go slow here because that's what helps you find what is really working for your shoulder. If you notice that your feet are able to walk around any more smidge, you can, otherwise stay where you are. We'll take one more deep breath. And then feet slowly walk back to center. And arm releases down, dangling by the side for a moment. Alright, we're going to do some more wall work here. So what we're going to do is a version of down dog, but using the wall. So you can practice along with me. Hands are going to come to about the hips and press into the wall at hip height. From here, you're going to walk your feet back. And we're walking in towards an L shape. So feet roll back as the hands press firmly into the wall. Then your ears are going to roughly come in between your biceps. You're looking for an approximate L shape here. As you begin to come into position, your knees can be as bent as you'd like. Hands are pressing into the wall, and your tailbone is reaching out towards whatever is behind you. So this is giving us a great stretch through our arms, shoulders, and all of our back. And our hamstrings are also getting in on the action. So from here, you're going to step your right foot forward, and your back will come up a little bit too. And then your left toes are going to turn out just about 30 degrees or so to the left. So the right knee is bent. Hands are still on the wall, and we're working with setting up a warrior one position here, just using the wall. So we're going to maintain the wall here, and then we're going to shift our hips back, straightening through the right leg, getting some stretch to that hamstring. You can bend your elbows and come forward here. This pose is sometimes called the pyramid pose. And you're going to bend through that right knee, come on up. This time you're going to step the right foot back to the left. Left foot you're going to turn forward. We're going to switch sides. So left foot steps forward, Right toes, you might even slide them back a little bit. They turn out to the right about 30 degrees. You can really feel the feet here, really feel them pressing into the ground, which will come into play when we bring these hands off the wall in just a moment. Then hip shift back, left leg moves towards straight. That doesn't mean it's totally straight, that's just the direction it's going. And then you're going to bend through that left knee. Step the left foot back to meet the right toes come up to meet. We pause in our down dog at the wall, sometimes called puppy dog position. Then you're going to bend through your knees and gently walk in towards the wall to come on up. Hands can release down to the sides. So we're going to do that one more time. This time we're going to come off of the wall, but we'll use our wall to start. So hands come to the hips, press into the wall. We walk back into our down dog position. From here, this time, let's set the left foot forward. The right toe step back and turn out. So you're using the wall for support, and if you want to continue to use the wall, you're totally welcome to do that. But if you want to play a little bit, you're really firming the feet, stabilizing through the back and core. And then you're going to slowly bring one hand to the hip and the other hand to the hip coming up. So here we are, we're in our warrior one position. Only if it would feel good to you, you can press your hands together in front of your chest. And you might even need to reach the arms up overhead, palms facing each other. We'll take one more deep breath wherever your hands are, hips in front of the chest or overhead. And then they come back to the wall if you weren't there already. Pressing firmly into the wall and step the left foot back, and the right foot comes to meet it in center. We pause for a moment in our down dog. And then we're going to switch sides. So this time, right foot steps forward. Left foot steps back and turns out just a little bit. Once you have your position, stabilize the feet. One hand comes to the hip. Other hand comes to the hip. So using this wall is really helping us get our alignment nice and clear before we add on. Hands in front of the chest. Maybe arms reaching up overhead. The back foot has a tendency to roll in or out here. You want to make it nice and firm and stable. Then hands come back to the wall. We're going to step that right foot back, step the left foot forward to meet it. Down dog for a moment. Hands are pressing into the wall as the tailbone reaches back behind you. Legs are moving towards straight, whatever that means for you in this moment. Then you're going to bend through the knees, walk the feet forward to come up. I'm going to do one more standing pose, and I'm going to rest with my block out of the way. So on your mat, and I'm on my back mat, just so you can see, but you can just turn to the side on your regular mat. You're going to step the feet wide. So you're stepping the feet a comfortable distance that's wide. So that's probably like 3 or 4 feet, but it just depends. You want to be wide, but not where you feel like you're going to shoot out into the splits or anything crazy like that. Hands around the hips. You're going to turn the left toes in about 30 degrees. The right leg foot is going to turn out 90. From here, on an inhale, you're going to bend the knee. Exhale, you're going to straighten the leg. And you're going to do that a couple more times, looking as you go to make sure you're not bending past your toes. If you are, you're just going to scoot your foot forward a little bit. So moving on the breath is allowing us to warm up the knee a little bit. And then you're going to hold. Arms can reach out. And if it feels good, you can turn the head and look out over the right fingertips. Perhaps noticing if your toes are gripping the ground for dear life. If they are, you can release them a little bit. And then hands come back to the hips. And feet turn to parallel. Before we move on, we're just going to take a wide leg forward bend here. So you can bend the knees a little more off. Tip forward. Where we bend, hands can come anywhere along the legs or to the floor. And just releasing them. And your next inhale, you press through the feet to come on up. I think my little thing fell off again. Okay. And we're going to go to the other side. So this time, right toes turn in a little bit, left leg and foot turn out 90 degrees. And again, we're going to move on the breath. Inhale, you bend the knee any amount that feels okay for you. Exhale, you straighten the leg. As you continue, I'm going to show you, you can do the same pose in a chair. So if you're standing, that's really good for you. Keep going. If you're better in a chair, you're going to sit on the edge of the chair, feet come wide, then into the same position, so toes turn in left, leg and foot turn out. And those of you who may have been moving through the standing series, you can now come into the hold. We'll all meet here, arms reach out. And you can turn the head to look out over the direction of the bent knee. And we'll come back to center, hands to hips, feet turn to parallel. And you're going to step the feet together if you're on a chair or if you're standing. So from here, we're going to come into our cool down portion, our relaxation portion. So if you feel comfortable coming down to sit on the floor, you're welcome to do that. If you feel better, it's more accessible for you in a chair, you can sit in a chair. If you, when we were on the floor before, sat on a blanket or something and lift up your hips, you might like to get that again. So you're going to come onto the ground in any comfortable seated position. That might be legs crossed. And then we're just going to unfold the legs. Get our sit bones nice and rooted so you rock to one side, move the skin out, other side. We're just going to take a forward bend here. So you might like to have the legs sort of next apart, or you might like to just take the legs wider. It's easier to come forward the wider the legs are, because you just have a nice space for your belly. So we're going to start with the hands resting on the legs. We're just going to do a little seesaw action, working through the side body. And let's go one more time each side. And you can come back to center. Then what you're going to do is bring your hands in front of you on the ground. So if this is not comfortable for you, now I put my block up there and I can't reach it, but you can bring your hands onto something that's a little bit higher up if this doesn't work well for you. If you are able to bring your hands to the ground, this may be as far forward as you'd like to come. If that's true, you're going to tuck your chin to your chest and hold. And just like at the very beginning of this practice, we're going to use the breath to tell us if we can come forward. So if your back, especially your lower back, feels really tight right here, this is where you're going to stay and you're going to breathe into the lower back. If you feel like you have some space to come forward, we're going to do a little rocking motion to do that. So you're just going to kind of slowly sway side to side. And as you sway, your hands are slowly going to walk forward. You're going to keep that up until you come to a place that feels like a comfortable hold. And once you get there, chin cuts to the chest. And you breathe into the back body. Our breath really does help us open up our body. And it lets us know if and when we're able to come more into the pose. And also lets us know when we need to come back a little bit. So if you find that you swayed yourself a little too far forward, just sway yourself right on back. We'll take one more deep breath here. Now we'll slowly come back up, keeping the chin tucked until your back is all the way up, and then the head can slowly lift. From here, you can bring the legs back together and go ahead and lay back on your back. So it's kind of hard for you to hear me when I'm laying down, so I'm just going to come back up to my desk so that you can hear more easily. But you can go ahead and lay down. Get anything you'd like to feel comfortable for this relaxation. So you might like to turn off your overhead light. And as you lay down, just notice how your body is feeling in contact with the ground. You might just start with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And just gently rock your knees a little side to side. While you're here, use the same skill we worked with at the beginning of the practice. Check in with your body. You might start by noticing how your hips are feeling. Moving from there to your back, your shoulders. And I encourage you to make any movements that would feel good for your body. So any little stretches, movements, this is totally your time. Then as you're ready, and only as you're ready, we'll come into our full relaxation. So if you feel comfortable, most comfortable with your knees bent, keep them bent. If it feels okay for you, you can extend your legs down. Now, for some of us curvy folks, extending the legs means that we're going to have a little bit of an arch in the low back due to our booties. So if that happens for you and you feel a little uncomfortable, you can bend the knees again, keep them flat. You might also bend the knees, press the feet down, lift the hips up just a little so you can tuck your tailbone just a smidge, and then lower back down. Sometimes also putting a blanket or a pillow under your head is a nice way to lengthen the spine and eliminate some of that arch in the back. So as you have made your way into your comfortable relaxation, I'm just going to talk you through a little tightening and release of your muscles of the whole body so you can rest more easily into your relaxation. So as you're ready, we'll begin with the feet. And you might just curl the toes down and then open them out wide, making any moves that would feel good through your feet. And then the feet can still. We'll move from there to the legs, tightening the muscles just for a moment, and then slowly releasing them, making any small adjustments that would feel good. So the legs can still. We'll move from there to the hips, the low back and the belly, tightening the muscles just for a moment, and then totally releasing. Next, we'll move to the shoulders. You might want to just very gently shrug your shoulders towards your ears, and then allow them to come down, nestling yourself into the mat. Finally, we'll move to the jaw. You might have to open your mouth very wide. Breathing through your nose here, allowing the jaw to slowly open. And then you can very gently allow the mouth to close. It might stay a little bit open, which is fine. From here, you can do a scan of your own body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, making any little movements that would feel good. And then we're just going to hold here. We're going to stay for about 5 minutes. And don't worry, I will still be here. So if you drift off to sleep for a moment, you'll come back. Don't worry. Let's take 5 more deep breaths here. Really going slowly, letting the lungs fill and release. After your fifth exhale, take a moment and just notice how you feel. From here, you can begin to invite some movement back into your body. You might just start by wiggling your fingers and toes. And then you can just let your body be the guide. So some things you might like to do, you might like to just reach the arms overhead. You get a nice full body stretch. You might like to slowly bend the knees, planting the feet on the ground and rocking them side to side. Or just anything that your body is calling for. Now is your opportunity to do that. As you're ready, and only as you're ready, you can slowly roll to one side. Pause and there for a moment, taking at least a breath. And the reason that we do this is that you don't sit up too quickly and maybe get a little bit lightheaded. And then again, as you're ready, you can slowly bring yourself up to seated, maybe keeping your chin tucked towards your chest as you do until you're fully up, and then you can bring the head up. We're just going to take 3 deep breaths together to close out. So as you're ready, we'll inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And then one more time at your own pace. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fun to practice with you. I would like to say that the intention of this practice, just as a reminder, was to really show you some different poses that you could do when you're traveling or just at any time that would feel good. You kind of get a nice overall body stretch. But when you're practicing on your own, you might like to do it again just in this order, or you might like to go at a different pace, repeat some of the poses, or delete some of the poses. It's totally up to you. I hope that this can kind of be a guide for you to do a practice of your own that you like later. So hope everyone has a great day. If you want to, I'll stay in for a moment and chat with you in the social stream. Otherwise, I will talk to you later. Namaste. And happy Curvy holidays.